Mackenzie, the entire world watched in shock as Simone Biles withdrew from the team final and then the all-around competition this week at the Olympics, citing her mental health as the reason for pulling out.
Yeah, and while it's unclear if Biles will compete in next week's individual events, what is clear though, much like Naomi Osaka earlier this summer, Biles has prioritized her mental health above the competition. And we are joined by our own Nancy Armour, who was there to witness all of the events in Tokyo. Nancy, thank you so much for being here with us. Bring us in that moment when it all went down. Was there honestly just confusion throughout? Did people know what was going on?
You know, we watched her in warm-ups, and she bailed out of the same vault that, you know, she did in competition. And it was kind of like, oh, what's going on? And, you know, you see gymnasts do that and then they're fine. You know, they kind of regroup and then they go out and do it because so much of this is muscle memory for them. But then to watch her, you know, do that in competition, I've covered her for 8-9 years. I've never seen her do that. Like, not even in warm-ups. I mean, it's, you know, the vault that she was supposed to do, it's incredibly difficult. It is, you know, don't get me wrong, but that's something that she can do pretty much like getting out of bed. That's her easiest vault. And so to see it, you know, I looked at it at first and it was like, wait, did I see that right? And then your head immediately goes to, okay, is she injured? You know, did she do something to her knee, to her ankle? And we saw her sitting with the doctor, team doctor. And so, you know, then you're thinking even more of that, and they leave. And then when she came back and she took off her grips for uneven bars, and it was, okay, so clearly she's injured. But then we saw her stay on the floor and it was like, what is going on? There was just so much confusion because we didn't know. And then when USA Gymnastics said it was I can't remember the way that they termed it, but it was clear that it was not a physical injury. It was mental health issues. It put it in a whole new light that, you know, clearly she has been dealing with some things, which she had alluded to the day before. But it was just surreal because it's not something you hear athletes talk about mental health. You don't ever see this on this stage.
So Nancy, putting this entire moment into perspective, I want to talk more about this conversation around mental health as a whole. A lot of people were giving her slack for backing out, but like you said in your column, she sent a very powerful message by doing what she did. Can you just explain the impact she has made for other athletes who are also competing?
Yeah, I think there are two things to look at here. The first thing that's important to realize is this is not a case of, you know, if she has a bad day, she's going to wind up 8th or she's going to be really slow. If she does not have full focus, if she is off, she could paralyze herself. She could die. I mean, these are, you know, the skills that she is doing are so difficult. There is no room for error. So this was not, you know, yes, it stems from mental health, but this was also, you know, she was worried about putting herself in physical jeopardy. But the larger issue is she wasn't okay. And you know, she tried to get herself back. She said that she thought that she could just shake it off, and she couldn't. And I think we need to look at this and start having more conversations about, okay, it's, you know, this whole thing of just, you know, rub some dirt on it and move on. How much damage have people done to themselves, whether you are an elite athlete or just an ordinary person, by not recognizing, you know what, I'm okay. I need to take some time. I need to do things differently. And hopefully this sparks a conversation that, you know, we'll look at this a little more closely and people will give themselves permission to say, I'm not okay. And the people on the internet who are saying that she gave up on her team or all the other stuff that's trash, I'd like to see them go out and try and do what, you know, anything close to what she's ever done. So, you know.
These games have been anything but normal, and you being on the ground in Tokyo can attest to that. Do you believe these extreme circumstances surrounding this year's games have put an extra toll, not only on the athletes, but just everyone involved in Tokyo?
Yeah, I think that's a great point that you make, that, you know, we've been so focused on the COVID protocols, which are obviously very important, but I think we haven't looked hard enough on the ramifications the impact that has, the trickle down effect. You know, I've said this last night. This is the first competition that Simone's parents have never been at. And while she is talking with them, she's FaceTiming with them, it's not the same as looking up in the stands and seeing your mom and dad or your brother and sister. And so I think we're not paying attention enough, and maybe now we're starting to see the impacts of the isolation, the pressure of having to make sure that you're adhering to the protocols and you're not putting yourself in jeopardy of testing positive. All of this plays a part. And we have taken these athletes, or these athletes have gone from their own bubbles where they're at least at home or they're in familiar environments to the environment here where they don't have the regular support system and the regular resources that they have. And I think we're seeing the impact of that.
Hey sports fans, if you want to watch more sports seriously, be sure to check out these clips right here. And make sure you're subscribed to the channel to see all the great content from us here at USA Today Sports.